And what's going on, everybody? It's Bill from High Volume Games, and welcome to the next episode of the pod. This is episode number 4, and today we are going to be talking about the Lakeshore Limited from Amtrak. It's a trip that I took as part of a week-long Denver vacation that culminated in the Boulder 10K, the last race I did. It was an absolutely great trip, a big adventure for me. I'd never, other than a few day trip to Vegas in the early 2000s, like 2001, 2002. I have not been out west, anything really west of like Florida. So it was very interesting to go out and see lots of things. And today we're going to talk about the first day of the trip, the first 24 hours, which is basically from when I left my house till I got to Chicago's Union Station. But before we do that, as we do every week, let's talk first about the Boston Marathon Jimmy Fund Walk. It's only 6 weeks away before we do the 26-mile journey from Hopkinton to Boston. I think we're going to have a pod where we talk about the course, what goes on, stuff like that, a pre-walk episode, and then we'll obviously have the post episode with footage that I capture. And like I said, I'm going to do things a little differently on this one. Instead of having me talking and stuff during a video, like while I'm filming, I'm just going to go, take pictures, take video, then we'll post it up on here and talk about it like we are right now. So that's what's going to be happening in 6 weeks. And we are 20 weeks away from the Dopey Challenge at Walt Disney World. And we have a little bit of news. And it's a little older news, but I can actually show it now because I've got skills, or at least a little bit more skills than I used to have. So today we are going to show you the medals that are going to be happening. Now, if you haven't, I've talked about it at different things, but maybe not on here. The Dopey Challenge is 4 races. It's part of Marathon Weekend. So Marathon Weekend, there's 4 races where there's a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, and a marathon throughout Disney. And there's 2 challenges. One is the Goofy Challenge, which you do the half marathon on the Saturday and the marathon on the Sunday. And then there's the Dopey Challenge, which is the 5K on Thursday, the 10K on Friday, the half marathon on Saturday, and the marathon on Sunday. So we are doing the Dopey Challenge for the 2nd year in a row. And so I did do a recap of the Dopey Challenge. It's on this channel. But we're going to check out the medals. And I'm going to go into this view so you can see it. I'm using WDW Magazine's site. But there is the 5K medal. It looks fantastic. I mean, I'm from the old school where in 2013, I did my first 5K at Disney, and the medal was like plastic, rubber, whatever you want to call it, flubber. So it did not look anything like this. Now this is cool. I love Pluto. I have a critique I'll make about all of these after, but let's just go down the list. There's the 5K. Here is the 10K. This one is very similar to last year. Last year, there was a lot of like anniversaries. So they really tried to, and they had a theme of, the 90s. So they really tried to make them different. But this is the 10K. The 10K is very similar with Chip and Dale. This is the half marathon. It looks very nice. Half marathons always look nice. I have to say. This is the marathon. That looks fantastic. Then this is the Goofy Challenge. Now, if you do Dopey, you get the Goofy Challenge as well because you are doing it. And this is the Dopey, and it looks like it's gonna glow in the dark. So the medals look so much better than last year. Again, I think they were trying to go with a theme, and two, they were trying to, uh, you know, fancy them up by making them. This is something that Disney has done lately, and that's make every medal has to do something. And I don't think that's my critique is I don't think medals have to do something. There, like as you can see, this 5K one, which I absolutely love, there's an opening here, which means Pluto's going to be able to go up and down. So Pluto's going to go up, down, up, down. I'm gonna guess it doesn't look like much of Chippendales is gonna do anything, except I'm gonna believe that like the acorns, you can spin, because that's what they did last year in the 10K one. You can see that Donald and Daisy are gonna be able to, I'm assuming, go back and forth, like run up and down. Minnie and Mickey, I don't know if there's anything. I can't tell. I don't think it spins, but we'll have to see. Goofy definitely looks like it could, like the square part here could spin, or Goofy himself. One of those is happening. And then like I said, the 48.6 Dopey Challenge one, it is absolutely gonna glow in the dark. So again, I don't think they have to do things. I think you could just have a medal. I don't generally go to my medals and start, spinning them. But hey, to each their own. I think these medals look so good, and I think they look so much better than last year, especially this 5K. No, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to walk away with the 5K, because I won't lie. I promised part of the reason I'm doing Dopey this year is I promised my little nephew that he could have a medal. Although I said that you can't have my marathon or my Dopey medal, because those are the big, but any of the others he can have. So we'll see. All right, so let's go back into. My mouse is flying all around. Go back to that. All right, so we're gonna start to talk about the Lakeshore Limited. I'm gonna take this screen off. All right, I'm gonna add this and pause it before. Look at that. Let's just put Orange Yoshi right on the screen. If you know me from trips, Orange Yoshi is always on a trip with me. If you notice, I also like the color orange. So the video I'm going to have going on while we play is a video I've already made and put on my channel. Again, I put that up and then started doing this pod. So you'll be able to watch this. If you want to watch the full thing, I'm going to obviously shut sound off because you don't need to hear me talk. If you want to watch that full video, you can. I'll put the link in the description. But so before we start the video, let's just talk a little bit about the Lakeshore Limited. It is a train that goes to Chicago from Boston and New York. So basically what happens is it's kind of like those math problems that you always used to hear about. A train leaves Boston and a train leaves New York at the same time. Which one gets to Albany first? And that's basically what happens is once one train leaves from New York City, one train leaves from Boston, eventually they're going to meet up in Albany and they're going to merge. And then the rest of the time that those two trains are now going to, as one, go to Chicago. And the same thing on the opposite. If you are taking the eastbound train, you're going to have the one train leaving Chicago, and once you get to Albany, they're going to split apart, with one train going south to New York City and the other going east to Boston. The train ride takes 22 hours. I have an itch. And it passes through 6 states. So it passes through Massachusetts, New York, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, sorry, geez. It's not even going to Philadelphia, so I don't even know why I said that, but Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. Okay, so I'm going to click start on my video, and I'm going to go into the bigger mode so you can actually see some of the things that are going on with that. There we go. That's me. See, in the video I was talking, I am at Mansfield Station. So Mansfield Station is very important to me because it was a lot of the time, like a lot of the times when I was growing up, the train vacations to Florida started here. So it was very nice to come back here. Also, very happy to see Mansfield, Massachusetts grow because this used to just be a small town, very small buildings around the courtyard, a square, and it was a lot bigger in this one. So, a lot of more buildings, a lot of businesses. I know I have a friend who has a business right over there, so that was great. And you can see now that the purple line, the purple train, the commuter rail, is coming into the picture. We took this to South Station. Now, I'm going to talk about South Station while this part is going on. So South Station was a little sad for me this time. Now, this ride to, South Station was fine. It was very nice to be back on the commuter rail. I probably haven't been on it in 15, 20 years. But South Station was sad. I actually, in my notes here, it says South Station refurbishment, sad, and I put a frown face on it. That shows exactly what I felt about it. They're definitely doing a refurbishment, but it looks terrible right now. If you Simply Railway has a video up about when he took the Northeast Regional, and he was showing off South Station, and that's what the South Station I remember, and that was from 2 years ago. The each track had open air. It was very nice looking. Now it looks like they're building something over the rails, so I don't know if they're putting another building, if the bus station is getting more. I'm not sure what's going on there, but it used to have 2 exits, one of each side of the big sign, that you could go to either side of the platform. That is gone. They put a huge wall. It might be a temporary wall, but they put a huge wall in place of it. It is not good looking at all right now. This is gonna be a theme for this trip, but first thing I did once I got there, use the bathroom, and the South Station bathroom was disgusting. It was terrible. And then that was not something I ever really want to go back into again. I saw many more bathrooms on this trip. All of them were much better than this Boston one. It was just a weird situation in South Station. Again, I think a lot of it has to do with the refurbishment. Here we are going into this. I'm going to pause that for a second. Just checking anything else I got to say to that. I don't think there was anything else I have to say about Boston. Just sad face emoji. Because I love South Station. I've grown up going to it. When I worked up in Boston, I used to have to get on the bus. So I used to have to take the train. I used to work an overnight, not an overnight shift, like a evening shift, but lived down south. So I didn't have a car, so I would spend the night at a coworker's house, get on the train the next morning to South Station, get on the bus home, and then where I would have a couple days off. It was a weird schedule, but I always loved going into South Station. The McDonald's that's been there forever, get that, go on the bus, always such a great time. But it was very sad on this trip. And, I'm going to complain about a few things throughout this, but yeah, bear in mind, this was a fantastic, journey, even this part right here. So I was very excited. I was looking at that board, and now we're going to go into the Lakeshore Limited. And the Lakeshore Limited, let's just start off with, so the train is the engine. It is the sleeper car. There's one sleeper car. Then there is the cafe car. And then there is 2 coach cars. And so I was riding coach for this ride. I would love to have been in the sleeper car in the Ramette, but um, the if I did it coach the way I planned this Denver trip, if I did coach from Boston to Chicago, um, and then the Ramette from Chicago to Denver, it was actually less money than my Florida trip in April. So that was the plan, and that's how we did it. So I walked out once they called us, and I was pretty much like the second person on the train. Um, but it's weird because you go over and they ask you where you're going to be, and I was like, Chicago. I'm going to go to Chicago, and I've been on trains where they've asked you where you're going, and they usually try to put everybody who's going to a certain place in that spot. If you're going to be going overnight on the train, they try to put all the people who are going overnight on the train together. That way, you're not going to be woken up by people in the middle of the night who have to get off. This train, so I go in and I say, I'm going to Chicago, and he says, okay, go to the next car. So I go to the next car and I sit down. And I'm looking around, and there are some people from Chicago or going to Chicago, some people going to South Bend. So that made all sense. Then there was a lot of people going to stuff close, like Springfield or Framingham or Pittsfield. I was like, okay, well, that's cool because that's like an hour, 2 hours away. They're probably putting them on the train or putting them at their stops. And then as soon as like it becomes night, nobody's going to be getting off of this car. But that's not how it ended up happening. And we'll talk about that during a section that I'm calling Overnight Hijinks. But let's get into the video itself and talk about the first day. So this is 12:50 in the afternoon. So 12:50, we're taking off. There I am. So we take off, and this basically runs along Route I-90 out of Massachusetts. So you're going to stop in Boston, Back Bay. Then you're going to go out to Framingham, Worcester, Springfield, Pittsfield before you go to Albany. This was cool. It's always nice to see Boston. I was a little sad. I don't know if it was me trying to film and just missed it, or me or the construction that they've done over the years, but I couldn't see Fenway Park. You can see the Citgo sign. It's going to show up. There's the Hancock buildings right there. Those are nice. Always nice to see those. I think you used to be able to like clearly see them from the highway. I don't think you see them as much anymore because obviously there's much bigger buildings now. I was at the Red Sox game, as I posted in episode 1, and yeah, it used to be you only saw the Prudential, and yeah, now you see all these buildings around Fenway. But it was very nice to go through here, just seeing Boston from a train, nice window seat. It's always great. So one funny part about this is there's the Citgo sign to the right. Yeah, you should see Fenway Park at some point here, but I don't know. I think the construction, that they've done, plus this, barrier. But one fun part was we got to stop at Framingham Station, and that wouldn't really seem like anything. But what's funny is I kind of looked to the left, and because we're talking about it earlier, I looked over to the left and I'm like, that looks familiar to me. And that's because the Boston Marathon Jimmy Fund Walk actually walks past the Framingham train station. It's like mile 7.5, mile 8, something like that. And so I was like, oh, I know exactly where that is. I've walked past this train station. Actually, I joked with my mom. I said, if I ever decided to quit the Boston Marathon Jimmy Fund Walk, I could always just hop on a train. Oh, there's that pretzel. Well, that pretzel is going to be in here in a second. So once we get, this is Worcester right here. But once we start leaving Worcester and going into, and yes, I'm saying Worcester, not Worcester, but if it makes you feel better, I can say it. But once we started leaving Worcester and going to Springfield and Pittsfield and Albany, you started a dramatic turn of scenery. Gone were the buildings and the houses and stuff like that. You were kind of going into the Berkshires, the mountain area. And it was just a nice turn. One thing that I can say with this video and my view is I learned after this. See, I had watched somebody's video talking about actually there was a few videos of which side to sit on the Lakeshore Limited, and they had all said stay on the north, and eventually they're right. But with day one of this trip, I probably should have been sitting on the south side of it. I get to see a little bit of Worcester here, but when we get to say Springfield and Pittsfield, I missed most of the city. I didn't know that actually until I watched another YouTuber's video who had been, he was in a roomette on the Lakeshore Limited out of Boston, but he was on the south facing side of the train, and his views looked much nicer. So we left Worcester. Now we're getting into these trees and going into Springfield. Also, each stop is now taking a lot longer. It was like taking 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Now it's taking, every stop is like in the hour long range. But yeah, the views after this point became so good. I didn't know how nice this area of Massachusetts really was. It's so nice out here with little mountains, not full-fledged, but giant hills, little mountains, whichever way you want to classify those. See, here's the little part I got out of Springfield, but apparently I'm missing everything else because I'm on the wrong side. But yeah, once we pass Springfield in this video, you're going to see much better views, and I was so surprised by how good this section was because I didn't know. And even the people I've watched the videos, they had gone in like the winter, so they didn't see that part. Or in their description was they were just going through Mass. But Mass has some good stuff. I was really pleased with this, and so yeah, let's talk about the elephant in the 22-hour journey, the bathrooms. I have that on my list. Well, yeah, the bathrooms. See, we were looking at this. It's nothing like talking about the bathrooms and looking at the giant scenery, but the bathrooms were fine. See, the problem, they're nice size. They're kind of a little bit bigger than what you'd expect any, airplane. The problem is just, especially in coach, you're at Liberty, it's how clean it is really how your ride mates keep it. And, so like there was two bathrooms, one on one side, one on the other side, where the one that was accessible and bigger and, that one was a mess. Like nobody, was like keeping it, trash everywhere, like I'm going to say water, but, there was just, there was stuff on the floor. It was just not fun. I'm going to pause this here for a second. The other one was actually smaller, but very clean. So it was really about who went in, how they kept it for you. And then, yeah, so that's all I can really say about the bathrooms on that train. I mean, they're there because you need them, not because, you want to go in them. Let's talk about the food. And okay, hold on. Let's talk about the food first. You saw my pretzel. I bought that in South Station. That was fantastic. And Auntie Anne's pretzel, hadn't had one in so long. Then we had I bought the grilled cheese. I bought that right around Springfield. We got stopped right around Springfield to let a freight train by, so I went and got grilled cheese. I don't know if I waited too long for the grilled cheese, like to eat it. Maybe if I eaten it as soon as I got it. But it was not good. It was terrible. It's sad too. The For breakfast the next morning, I must have had an egg and cheese something. I don't remember, so it can't be that good. So this was a little disappointing. But again, I think I went a little too fancy. Normal, like the last time when I went with my mom to Disney for Dopey, I was kind of I just had like a coffee cake and I had simple things and it was very good. This time I think I went with like the full on meals and it was just eh. So we're now going into Albany. This is where you take your train. The two trains meet up, and now you generally have a decent amount of time. This is what they call a fresh air break or a smoke stop, where you get to get out of the train. And in this case, the two trains need to merge. So they. I was out there for a few minutes. We were only gonna get half the time that we would normally get. We normally get like an hour here, but we were only going to get like a half an hour because our train was delayed. So I went out, took a few pictures you just saw, and then I went back in. And that was kind of cool because I got to be in the train when it merged with the other train. Like our train went forward, got past the track change, and then went back. So that was pretty cool. Then we left Albany. Again, if you were on the south side of the train, you would have seen Albany and it would have looked nice. I'm on the north. I've got a great view of the sunset, but yeah, so I didn't see much on the return, like the end of Albany. So now we're going to talk about the sun is going down. It is getting to be night. I am tired at this point. I am waiting for the lights to be shut off, and I figured they were going to be shut off around 8 or 9. They started shutting the lights off right around 9 o'clock. I should have brought it over, but I have this sleep mask that has headphones on them, the Bluetooth headphones. And so I kind of had the headphones going. I was looking at this sunset and I was just ready to go to sleep. I've been blessed the whole ride with nobody wanted to sit with me. Something must be wrong with me, but nobody wanted to sit with me. So that was cool because I got, the first 17 hours of the ride, I was sitting by myself. So that was awesome. But there's my sleep mask. I'm going to pause it at First Energy Stadium, and we're going to talk about some overnight hijinks. So first off, let's talk about what I said earlier about, we're going to have people who are getting off and getting on in the overnight on one train and people who are staying over. That's usually how it's done. It was not that case in here. It basically seemed like, okay, we emptied our train. Now remember, with our train, we had the two coach cars, the sleeper car, and the cafe car. The New York side had some more coaches, at least one more sleeper, maybe two, and the dining car, which I will say something about the Boston one. If you are taking a sleeper car to Boston from the Boston train, you do get free dinner and free breakfast, but you have to wait till 7:30 to get your dinner because the cafe car or the dining car is not installed on the train until you reach Albany. So you got to think about that because definitely have to plan for it. So the hijinks, yeah. So I don't know why they did what they did, but they started filling our car as soon as we basically left Albany. Once we started leaving Utica, they started filling up our car again with anybody who was going anywhere. So when Utica would come, we're getting to Utica at like 9 p.m. and then Syracuse, maybe a little, no, 9 p.m. is about right. Syracuse a little later than that. Oh, I can't think of the Rochester. There we go. Rochester right there. After that, and then into Buffalo, and they're just adding more people, and people are, these guys. It's not everybody's getting off in Chicago or South Bend or something late. So they're getting off in the middle of the night, and so all throughout the night we had people going in and out, and so it's just weird. Again, it's me nitpicking, but like I said, I've done the Silver Meteor, where they purposely made sure that everybody in the car was going to be in the overnight, would be that way they got a chance to sleep. And then, there was one person with a very herbal scent, and who would go off and get some fresh air and get, a stronger herbal scent. Yeah, you'd think that would have been more towards Colorado, but so that was, and that's all I smelled the whole time. The whole next, what are we at? About 12 hours left in this ride. And then there was a lady, and she got on her cell phone, and now Amtrak's going to tell you, oh, if you don't want to hear people go on your cell phone, go to the quiet car. Well, the quiet car didn't come in until Albany, and I had already been sitting in my seat for 8 hours at that point. I'm all set. And I mean, who's going to be, why are we on our cell phone at midnight talking loud, just chatting? I totally understand. Hey, we're a little delayed, I'll be there soon, this or that, or but just to break into a full conversation, I can't even see how that, I don't know. I'm not a phone person, so it may just be me, but I don't know. But our train ended up getting delayed. I'm gonna stay at Syracuse for about an hour and a half. Because nothing wrong with us. It was the train in front of us. See, unfortunately, trains don't have, you can't switch lanes at most spots. So you have to run. If somebody gets stuck in front of you, you're stuck behind them until they're fixed. So we were delayed about an hour and a half. And we got to Cleveland closer to like 4 or 5 in the morning. I ended up sleeping okay. Basically, not really. I slept for every time we were moving. I slept. Every time we stopped, I woke up, because again, we have people getting off, people getting on, the conductors going through, calling out the places. Again, that lady talking on her phone. I ended up basically, so I had that mask on and with the Bluetooth speakers, but the Bluetooth speakers were not loud enough to drown her out. So then I took my Raycons. I got them. I took my Raycons, put those in my ear to block her out, and then but still had the sleep mask on. So I actually had multiple things protecting me for trying to drown out the sound. That shows how bad it was as far as the noise. Midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, just chatting. She ended up leaving somewhere in Ohio, so after a while. But I got this was also, Cleveland was right when I got my seatmate, who seemed nice, but made it very difficult to get out of the seat later on, because she had her full suitcase, if I'm sitting, and this is the back of the seat. She's got her full suitcase here with a bag, and made it very difficult to get out. And I'm a person who wants to have general line of sight, to even just to get up, because I get a little claustrophobic as far as if I just don't know if I can get out. So I mean, I know all these complaints are just me, but all right. But here's the thing: all that complaining, all that overnight hijinks, and literally had all that not happened, we wouldn't have gotten this later on, and we're gonna get to it. But it was here we go, this beautiful sunrise over Lake Erie. because if we hadn't been delayed, we would. This is just outside of Sandusky, Ohio, and if we had not been delayed, we would have been well past this point on the journey. We would have still gotten a very sparkling sunrise. It would have probably been over some Indiana farms, or and it still would have been amazing. But just to be able to see Lake Erie and this, nice sunrise that we got was all worth the overnight hijinks, because it takes some out of you in the train the longer you go. But yeah, once you get those beautiful views, it's like, okay, you got that burst of energy again. And seeing that gorgeous sunrise was like, okay, I'm ready for this day, which again, this day is me completing this train, waiting 4 hours, and getting onto another train. So seeing this really got it going. And again, that's the thing. A lot of people complain about Amtrak delays, and they're not wrong. But if you just first of all, just make sure you give yourself time. But if you just let the experience happen, it can turn out great. And that's what it did. Because the first day was like, okay, it is what it is. But again, we started off first with this great view on the water, and then we're going to go into Ohio. We're in Ohio, but we're going to go further into Ohio and into Indiana and see some lovely farmland. It's such a nice journey. But this is the part where, okay, so I said I was on the wrong side on day one. And I was. This is the time when you need to be on day two. So if you're going to be a coach passenger, hopefully it's not as crowded as it was. And I think that was a main issue, because if I was listening to another person's review and they said, okay, our train had nobody. We were in the back. We were in like two other people on our thing, and my train was absolutely full. So hopefully you don't have a full train, but if you are going to do it from Boston to Chicago, take the southern side, the left side of the train, the southern side, on day one, and then on day two, switch over, because you're going to get, if you're delayed, you're going to get Lake Erie, but you're going to get these farmland, this beginning of the plains, and you're going to get the entrance to Chicago. So that's definitely my suggestion, is to be able to, if you can, switch spots. But again, if you're trapped like me, and I was trapped at this point, I could not get out, and it was driving me nuts. But here's Toledo, Ohio. That is a nice bridge, by the way. I know nothing about the Toledo, Ohio, other than the Mud Hens, the Toledo Mud Hens baseball team. So once we were done with Ohio, we went into Indiana farmland and South Bend, and South Bend looked interesting. It started out weird, it started out like most places, with a long strip of McDonald's and Arby's and stuff like that. Not the greatest. And then you went into like where the train station was, and which I'm assuming is more like the center of town. And I saw this football stadium, and I wanted to know if it was like, hey, is this part of, I'm sure it's not where the, Notre Dame Fighting Irish play, but I was like, hey, is this a practice field or, something? But look at this beautiful farmland. Because my second train, where we went from Chicago to Denver, is a lot of this, but this was the actual first real look at farmland for me. I know a lot of people will say this isn't the greatest views and stuff, but for someone who, like I said, who had never been really west of the Niagara Falls or Florida, this was something to look at. This was something I had not seen, like, and I enjoyed this immensely. I was at this point in the trip, I was very much ready to go home, or not go home, but very much ready to be at Union Station, because it was starting to get, uh, we're at this point. This is probably 7 in the morning, Central Time, and so we're now like 19 plus hours into this trip. So I'm pretty much getting done. I'm enjoying myself, especially in this morning. I had that egg and cheese bagel. I'm gonna say again, a very forgettable meal, I guess, because I don't remember what the hell I had, and I remember pretty much everything about this trip except that. So, let's just talk about. I mean, we're not there in the video yet, but we're gonna keep going. Eventually, we're going to get into the Illinois train yard. There's a giant train yard that was amazing to look at. We're actually gonna see it soon because this is Lake Michigan right there. But there's the Illinois train yard was amazing because there was just so many, just trains. Like, it was a freight train area, so it was, all freight trains and oil and this and that. But I'd never seen anything like that where, I mean, you see the train yard at South Station, but this is like insane. And that really leads you into Chicago. You get like, I'll say you're in that train area. I don't know if I'm calling it the right thing by saying yard, but it's like 15 minutes you're in it, but by the time you're getting to the end of it, you start to see Willis Tower, and you start to see other buildings. This is South Bend here in the video, so I'm a little ahead of the game, but not by much. I actually have to mute this part because the person next to me was on the phone and getting very loud and angry. Literally the only 5 seconds there was anybody that was like, okay. But that was just one weird thing. So yeah, this is South Bend, and it just starts off kind of okay. This is not what I would picture, because you're thinking, South Bend, you think Rudy, the Fighting Irish and stuff like that. But it turned out to be very nice once you got to right here to the center. So yeah, the train yard that's going to come up in the video, I almost feel like I should forward it a bit, but there's only a few more minutes in the video, and I only got a few minutes left to talk. But so you come from South Bend. South Bend is the last stop before you get into Chicago. Oh, I think I missed the football field I was going to point out. No, I didn't. We haven't gotten there yet. Okay. But yeah, the train yard was very nice, and then you started seeing Chicago in the distance, and it's a cool sight because, again, I mean, Willis Tower is what, isn't it? I don't know how high it is, but it's obviously the tallest building in the U.S. And it just starts creeping up on you, and you take a very long journey. That was the football stadium. Unfortunately, I caught the back end of it, but yeah, you have this like football stadium right here. And yeah, so you take this long route into Chicago. So the building is just getting closer and closer and getting taller and taller. And then this is the start of the train yard. Like I said, this is just massive amount of trains. I think at one point I was trying to get like that fire, and I just said, look at how many of these trains are in a row, and I'm just going to keep the camera on until it goes. But yeah, so Union Station is underground, so but it's fun because when you go through Chicago, you see Comiskey Park. Is it Comiskey Park now? I'm sure it was like Chicago White Sox Stadium. I know it probably has an actual title. They used to play at Comiskey, but I know, like every baseball stadium has a general sponsor. Um, so here we go. We're entering Chicago. There is Willis Tower straight up. There is the baseball stadium. There's the skyline. And that's it. All right. So once you get through you get over the bridge and you're starting to go into Chicago, you pass by all the smaller, not the smaller neighborhoods outside of it, and then you start to go under a level into the actual station itself. Then you get dropped off there, and then you get you go into the station. Then you just kind of go up the ramps. It's actually not, the station is a little confusing when you're leaving the station. Once you kind of get your bearings in the station, though, it's an amazing station. The problem is once you come from, if you've never been there and you come from the train, it's a little difficult to understand what you're doing. But once I basically kind of did a lap around and then went outside for a second, and then I went back in, and it was much easier once you're coming in from the street to understand the station. So, okay, I talked about the train merge or dining car, and I talked about, like I said, the best views are south on the first day and north on the second day. Would I recommend it? Yes. Although, things I would say is to have patience. Like I said, there's a lot for me that I complained about. Most of them were nitpicky things, and none of them really affected the outcome. Like I said, I enjoyed myself. I saw some amazing sights along the way. Massachusetts, the Berkshire area, that was fantastic. I really enjoyed that Albany Rensselaer station, the Lake Erie sunrise, the farmland in Indiana, Toledo's skyline, everything, and then again Chicago skyline. So there was so much good things to see on this trip. It's not going to compare with something like the California Zephyr or like the Southwest Chief, those type ones that go through like the Rockies or other areas like that, but it has its own charm. You just got to be patient, especially on coach. If you're in a sleeper car, which will cost you more, you have the privacy. A lot of those nitpicky things that I said aren't going to happen. But if you are going coach, just have patience. Take food with you, because I'd rather tell you to bring food than go into the cafe car. The cafe car has some nice things, but they are expensive. And again, I struggled this time. I didn't get the hot dog on purpose because I knew I was going to get it on the California Zephyr. So I should have done it though, because I did not enjoy that grilled cheese. But I enjoyed this, and this is going to be a part one. This was part one of the trip. I spent 4 hours in a layover in Union Station before I went out onto the California Zephyr, which we'll do in another video. And then we're going to do two more videos about Denver. One is just going around. I got a lot of clips about that and things to talk about there. And then also the Boulder, which I want to have Jay Crow on so we can look back at that. But that's going to be it for not the California Zephyr, the Lakeshore Limited. Again, I enjoyed myself. It was just, it was one of those things where you just have to be patient on it and let things go. And I think that's the case if you're ever going to do a coach ride on a long distance train, yeah, you better pack some patience with you. All right, my friends, I'm going to cut this over to here. That is going to be it for today. Sorry it ran long, but I had a lot to say, I guess. We talked about the medals. That was cool. Next week, I don't know what we're going to do yet. We may do just California Zephyr. We might pick up a game. I know Moving Out 2 just came out. I don't think we'll talk about the Boston Marathon walk until we get a little closer to that. So, but I'll give you a heads up on the YouTube channel or any of my socials, which is at High Volume Games. Till then, I will see you next week. I hope you all have a great week. Thank you for making this fun, and those of you who are watching and letting me know and enjoying it, I appreciate it so much. Enjoy, and we'll see you back here for the pod on Thursday, and also starting the Promotion Wars series again on Sunday. So take care, everyone. Have a good night.